Okay, today I want to tie a Peter Ross. Now this is on a size number 6 hook, salmon style hook, and this is the original tie-in of the Peter Ross, which uses a teal flank feather for a wing. Excuse me. Now you've seen me tie a teal wing probably if you see the video of the teal, blue and silver. But this particular, I'm going to tie on this hook here using squirrel tail for the wing, partly because it's just as effective and it's easier to use for someone who's a little bit new to the job, and I'm really aiming at that type of tire. I want to encourage newcomers to tie in flies, so it's I think the squirrel wing would be easier for you to handle if you are new to the job. But even experienced people are now adopting the squirrel wing instead of the teal. The teal is such a difficult feather to handle. Now, the Peter Ross fly, it's well known as a sea trout fly. Some would say the creme de la creme of sea trout flies. It was invented by a guy called Peter Ross from Perthshire in Scotland, beautiful part of the country, and it's a variation of an even older fly, which is a teal and red, and it had a teal wing. The teal and red had a teal wing with an all red body. This has got just a red sort of thorax area, which the original tie-in uses seal's fur. I'm going to use something a little bit different, and you'll see that as we go along. Okay, I'm just going to put a bit of a layer of silk down to tie in the tail. The tail is a tippet feather from the golden pheasant. It's a feather that we don't have to draw down to cut off. You just cut off a section like that. You see the tips are already lined up. With most feathers you would sort of draw them down to line up the tips, but these are okay. Now there's a dull side and there's a brighter side. I'd give it a bit of a fold to try to get the brighter side showing, just like that type of thing. And I'll tie this down. Now it's not a very bulky feather, so we don't need to worry too much about having a step here. If you tie in too much material at the tail, you get a step in the fly, which is always best to avoid. Now I'm going to tie in the rib, and the rib on the fly is the oval silver tinsel. I'll show you in a mo. Just cutting it off the reel here. I've got to watch it because it spins out of control, but this is it. The medium oval silver tinsel, and this is it that I'm going to tie in. Now I tie this pretty much full length of the body. Again, that is to prevent the step, and also with the salmon type fly, which has got a fold over eye, it sort of levels up the side. I'll show you that briefly. Get another one out of my box here. Can you see that fold over eye there? So by tying alongside it, I even up the shank of the hook. Hope that's coming out okay. Right, back to it. Now that's the rib tied in, and now the body. And I'm going to use flat silver tinsel for the body. Again, it's a lure flash. Cutting it off the reel, bear with me, I'll show you in a mo. Low flash, flat tinsel, medium, low flash. Okay, and this is going to be tied in now. So I tie that just like that, and I take the silk up, keeping this braid my side as I go. I'm not doing touching turns of the silk, but I want that over my side like that. Okay, now before I wind that body material, I'm going to put a touch of varnish on the shank because that helps it to stick and sort of protects it a little bit. Just like that. May not be necessary, not everyone does it. Okay, now wind the body material. I'll put my silk a little bit up the front for now. Okay, here's the body material going on. It just winds in overlapping turns really, so that you don't leave any gaps. Sometimes I do this, I put it up the front, take it down and bring it back up. But this fly is in two parts really, because the thorax is that red seal's fur or seal's fur substitute, so I don't think it's necessary here to do that. But if I do slightly overlapping turns, it will cover the shank of the hook quite well. Now I'm up to about there. I can take my silk back. I just parked it up the front a moment or two ago, and I'll secure this with 1 or 2 winds. 1, 2, and nip off this bit of surplus which I'll use for another fly. Okay, now I'm not going to rib it yet. I'm going to put on the thorax area, which is this antron type of material here. Now it's very easy to use. You can dub it on naturally if you want to, or you can pull some out like this. Some will say there's no substitute for the original seal's fur. They could be right, but it's a bit fiddly to dub the seal's fur, and I don't find the fish notice any difference. But if you want to do that, by all means, do what you do the seal's fur. I would, this is okay to use, I can assure you. You see I'm just winding it on. I mean, you've seen me dubbing before, I'm sure, on some of the other videos. I just build up a bit of a sort of thorax area here. Now I'm calling it a thorax, but that's the wrong description, because a thorax is on a fly that flies in the air, and this fly imitates a little fish, and that's why the sea trout like it. Now can you see what I've done there? I've built up, it's easy to use, and it's very good stuff to use. I've not found any problems with it at all. There, I've tied that off, and now you can see the type of thing. And I'll keep that for a trout-sized Peter Ross. Now I'm going to rib it, because we rib the whole body in one go, the red as well. And I'm not counter-winding, there's no need to, because this body is firm and hard, and there's no fear of the rib getting tucked down in amongst the material and getting lost. It stands out nicely, and it supports the, I say, keep calling it thorax, but you know what I mean. Okay, there we are, and I'm going to secure this and put on the wing. Right, as I said to you, the wing, natural, no, I'm sorry, it's the thorax, the beard hackle goes on next. It doesn't have to go on next, but I put it on next. I'm using a hen hackle, a black hen hackle. It's very soft and mobile, will absorb water. It's a wet fly, so this is what I want to do with it. I draw down to get the tips level, pinch off a bit, squeeze them up a little bit, get them sort of level, doesn't matter too much. And the tip of the hackle, the end of the hackle, will come where the point of the hook is, which is just concealed in the vise. And I'll give a pinch and loop up underneath, like that. That's the hackle on. I'm going to nip out these roots of the hackle, watching I don't cut the silk, which is easy to do. Now, the squirrel wing, natural squirrel wing. It's important you don't put too much on. You want a sort of a slim profile to the fly. Some people put too much on, and this is how you do it. You put too much on, and the fly is bulky and heavy, and it doesn't look right in the water. Now before I put it on, I'm going to take out the underfur. See that coming out? The underfur? Get that out. You can comb it out. You can use your dubbing needle. I find it comes out okay just by doing this. Squirrel hair, squirrel tail is very slippery and very hard. So it's easier than teal, I can assure you. But you have to be a bit careful using it. Now that is what I'm trying to achieve, but I've got to nip out these roots. And very often when you do that, the wing moves. So I'm going to use my sharper scissors, and I may do a bit at a time to rather than try to take them off all at once. That's the type of thing. Now if I have moved the wing, no, it looks okay. That's okay. Now, I said earlier that I thinned down my varnish, and this is one of the reasons why I thin it down, is because I'm going to put some on the roots of this wing, and the varnish will run in, it'll soak in. I've got thicker varnish as well, but I quite like this thin varnish, which I've used. It's nail varnish, and I just use nail varnish thinner to thin it down. Okay, I'm going to finish off. I'm going to secure the head. So I bring my silk to the front. A little bit of fur there. Not going to cause any problems, but I'll nip it off. Because I'm doing a demonstration, I probably wouldn't bother normally, but... Okay, now, you'll often get a step at the end of the wing. And to avoid that causing problems, bring your silk to the forward and build it up. Build it up in front of the wing. If you go onto the wing, you'll find your silk drops off. And it's not as effective. Now with the varnish and with this silk, I'm building up a good head, which secures the whole fly. That's the Peter Ross. I'm going to do a whip finish on it. You've seen me do it before. The way I tend to do it. Cross over the silk, get this top one here and just wind it around. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a big fly. I'll give it 5. 3 or 4 is enough on most flies. Biggish fly, and I draw it up using my dubbing needle. Okie doke. Cut the silk, open it to a gape, slide it up against the head, and you don't leave any bits. Now that's our fly. That's the Peter Ross with a squirrel wing. Not original. There's the original, but I don't think you'll have any problems with it. I think you'll be okay. Varnish the head to secure everything, and I often go back and re-varnish the head the next day, unless I want to use the fly quickly. In the winter time when we're not fishing for sea trout, or suing as we call them, I put the flies to one side, a little bit of, and I varnish the head. Now always make sure the eye is clear. It's quite easy on these big salmon, these larger flies. You can use a dubbing needle like that, or you can put the feather through, which is the old sort of bottle brush method, up through, and that clears it. Okay, I think that's it. I hope you liked that demonstration, and I hope you learned something from it. I thank you for watching.